cheer, too young and old, meek and the bold, ding-dong, that is a song, which of the ring, all caroling. One seems to hear words of good cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they follow, raising the sound, oh, hallelujah, hallelujah, hailing the rain, while people sing songs of good cheer. Christmas is here, ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas, ding, merry, merry, merry Christmas.
Up a little more. Can you hear it, Mom?
Oh, hello there. It's me, Wolfie T. Wolf, head wolf at Flatbrook Public Company. Do you know the story of the time that wolves played an integral part in the saving of Christmas? Oh, you don't? Well, I'm actually not that surprised. It's not that well known. In fact, if I wasn't the cousin of a wolf that was there, I probably wouldn't have heard of it myself. I was in Palm Springs at the time. I was doing a show with Lola and Bridget sorry. So, instead, I'm going to relate to you the incredible story of the time Christmas became totally imperiled, but then turned out okay. Featuring wolves that I am related to, not just some contrivance to make sure that I could be the narrator reasonably. Here we go. A few days before Christmas, Santa's workshop was buzzing with sounds of the elves and hot chocolate guzzling. The elf managers were making calls to the east, ensuring America's tech was being pumped out by the Chinese. And the newest design for old-fashioned toys that Macy's puts in the windows but nobody buys were being crafted by hungover elves who'd once again overnogged in spite of themselves.
And I woke up next to a penguin and a yeti wearing a nun's habit. Ugh, the nun was in the shower. Man, never again.
That year's sleigh pulling team were reviewing plans for the flight, adjusting flying formations, and went to strafe left and right. A little known fact, I'll use this aside to reveal, is that flying reindeer, although they're quite real, are not the same ones that fly every year. Donner and Blitzen, all the rest, to be clear, those are the code names used for the positions filled by each airborne Tyrannus on their time-space warping missions. The only notable exception to that rule on this flight team was old General Rudolph, whose bright schnoz had seen Santa and sleigh from the Great War right through Iraq, and though they might lose some presents, he always brought them back. There was an old cohort of Santas, a great, mean, hairy demon, who was there to punish bad children, and occasionally eat them. But it had gone quite out of vogue to threaten kids with anthropophagy, so changing with social mores, Krampus had stayed home for the last century. And while out of the Yuletide spotlight, the nasty furry fellow worked as Kris Kringle CPA, and had grown awfully mellow.
No, I don't think we can do Bridget's house and Greg's hot tub party, honey. We'll just have to pick one.
So much so that Rudolph and he had just celebrated their 12th anniversary, and both were, right now, finishing up on the sleigh, making sure it gleamed bright and well gripped with the reins, while Mrs. Claus kept everyone fed with cookies made of gingerbread, homemade cupcakes, some with sprinkles, and dainty candies that seemed to twinkle.
Oh, there you go, Elgin. Have another biscotti. Vincent Reindeer, you haven't had a macaroon. Where's Frosty? My gracious Krampus, have you tried a Nutella muffin? Ooh, I have to go get more gingerbread men.
So each creature was working with bubbling joy to bring the world winter magic every girl, trans, and boy. And at the center of this bustling scene, jolly old Saint Nick, in his sharp eye, a gleam. He was barking out orders mixed with sporadic ho-hos, and with his spectacles perched on his red-button nose.
Elidolf, there's a breakdown in chute 12. Elmira, get those soldering irons to B level now. Ho, 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 you guys are killing me. Elgin Elf, bring me a coffee, extra Irish. Elton? Elton! Where are those damn spreadsheets? Come on, move, people. This isn't new. What are we doing here, painting eggs? Move, move, move!
When from the bakery hall, which is Mrs. Claus's domain, the sounds of a crash and a dreadful shrieking came.
No! Santa! Santa! Oh, I've had a vision in the cookies. The cookies string me a harbinger of ill tidings. Through the bad black void, the voices scream, Santa!
Ho, ho, ho! Hold on. Get back to work, Elvis. Now, what did you see, Lambkin?
Dark figures, Santa. Oh, naughty, naughty figures. All of them cool learners. They're coming, even now, coming in the dark, through the skies to to ruin us. They're coming from out there.
While others may have thought the old lady'd gone crazy, her visions he trusted, no matter how hazy. For that sweet winter witch was in tune with the ether. Through gingerbread omens, spirits would often reach her. Her confectionery predictions were this time no less correct. For touching down at their base, a most evil group met. Ken Salazar and Sarah Palin, the heads of Exxon, Shell, and BP, who, to their friends, who were only each other, were known as Rex T, Pete V, and Bob D. Ann Coulter and her Adam's Apple had tagged along for laughs, and to bully all the elves about their height, and call them fags. And this living tableau of evil in the frosty Arctic night was surrounded by Blackwater soldiers, headed by Ted Wright. And what was it that they were doing in the ice and in the snow? Well, let's listen in on what they say, and then that way you'll know.
Sarah, I really have to hand it to you. This is brilliant.
Ah, sure, and thanks to you for giving the go-ahead to Arctic drilling, and to the boys over there for putting up the money to fund this little exploratory mission. Everyone knows that Fat Toy Smith's place is built right directly on top of the biggest vein of the finest crude, and that magic tub of lard will never see it coming. Besides, I have a personal score to settle.
You smell that? Yeah, Rex. The smell of oil and elf blood is in the air.
And something else. Something rancid, like moldy rat's carcass.
Sorry, the smell of oil and evil gets me wet.
And you are one creepy bitch. Glad to have you on our team. Ted,
Yes, ma'am!
you have that heavy artillery?
Yes, ma'am! Ready and willing to disembowel the proprietors of the Elven Toy Distribution Complex, a communist threat to our American freedoms!
Oh, that's real good. You know, you should meet my daughter.
So, when do we get to that disgusting, bleeding, liberal puke Claus's house?
Oh, the sooner the better. Gosh, I'm so excited. This is just like Christmas. Well, shoot, I say we mobilize now. And we gotta be quick. You know I can see Russia from here, too.
And mobilize they did in fearful contraptions, made of wheels, guns, and steel, and built for workshop-wrecking actions.
Let's go, bitches!
Sarah yelled and shouted,
USA!
for she knew the time for greed and destruction had finally come their way. And back at the magic workshop, Santa's wife was apoplectic, for now she saw all too clearly through her gingerbread visions most prophetic.
Oh, Santa, Rudolph, Krampus! The men, the gingerbread men, they've made it clear. The Dark Queen of Alaska, the Moose Killer!
Not Sarah Palin! Well, she was always on the naughty list as a girl.
She comes, even now she comes, with the 3 men of oil, a master of war, that bitch Ann Coulter, and little Kenny Salazar. What?
But he was on my good list. Why would Kenny turn?
An artery of the mother's blood pumps hardest below the mystic maiden den of mirth.
What?
They want to burn us out and drill for oil.
Damn it! That little Palin twerp has the weirdest penis envy. All she ever wants to do is drill and kill, drill and kill, drill and kill. That's why she never gets anything. Well, Santa, what are we gonna do? What are we gonna do? We're gonna have to launch into Crisis Formation Omega 4. You're right, Krampus. Those drills were important.
And we pushed, starting up sirens, and red flashing lights, all meant as a sign that it was time for Arctic war, for defense of the mission, to retain the magic home from the human demolition. Mrs. Santa Claus climbed to the top of the tower, where through pagan rites she grew her white wintry power. She whistled quite low and bared her old breasts, then slicing her own palm, she turned to the west.
Gods of the night and coldest winds, hear my voice, feel my rage. Answer me with protection. I suckled at your tits of ice, one with the eternal void. Dame Nature, sister darkness, cold eternal nothingness, bring yourself to be led. Send your warriors, the winter wolves, to bleed those who would oppose us. Bring back the eternal sleep and kindest cruelty to those that would be our enemies. Go! Kill! Make bare their bones beneath the sheets of ice. Go with all the fury of hell!
And so, stirred by Mrs. C's invocation, the winds and the wolves began the migration towards the group out on the tundra, walking through the long sub-zero night. As the clouds covered up the moon, they dropped sheets of ice so thick and white. The weather's fury and snow blinding confused the oil-lusting lot, and woe to those foolish soldiers who got lost or who got caught by the terrible North Pole wolves, that furry demon horde who picked men out of the darkness and who from limb to limb they tore. My God, they're tearing us apart like fresh bread! Oh! At first, the combination of the windstorm with the monster wolves were what was winning. The snow was getting splattered with blood as the troops they were a-thinning. When suddenly Ann Coulter brought out a small PA, and in her deep, don't-get-enough voice announced,
I've got something to say. You disgusting, obviously homosexually deviant, liberal, lesbian, agenda-pushing, hirsute broads make me sick. Maybe if you lost some weight, you'd get a real man, and you wouldn't be so angry about having vaginas and could get off the food stamps your kind so obviously trades for bath salts, PCP, and crack, which causes all your birth defects so you can get more financial assistance to get more birth control you're not using. It's disgusting, and I'll bet the ones that got shot.
and as Ann unleashed a tirade using words like dyke libtard, the hairy killer wolves was stunned, taken completely off their guard.
God, that's just so distasteful. Jeez, lady, you're coming up here to wreck shit we care about, and we're fighting, but you're just mean.
And while the wolves responded to Ann's awful distractions, Sarah Palin and Ted Wright went into quick and dirty action, pulling some weaponry from out of their jeep, then getting them ready. Behind the snow wolves, they creeped. That's kind of a stretch. Anyway, so while Ann Coulter, the beast, attempted to tame, the backs were turned to the others, so they were surprised when they felt flame.
Roast in hell, you unnatural furry sons of dog whores!
My God, you're crazy! Get him, Sarah! For while some of the menfolk had called it ashore, the Ice Queen Sarah Palin knew the power of flamethrowers. With their hair and flesh on fire and being roasted off the bone, they tore Ann apart in pain-fueled fury.
Oh! I only regret not being more of a shrewish bitch for personal gain.
Dragging her lower half back home. The storm still raged on as the wolves ran off into the night, and as the survivors looked around, they saw quite the gruesome sight. The ranks had been reduced greatly by the magic talking canines, and the ground had gleamed bright crimson from the gore and the intestines.
Acceptable losses, let's go.
And so the group moved forward toward its diabolic goal. And back at Santa's castle, the wolves returned with what they'd stole.
Oh, I recognize that bony ass anywhere. They killed Ann Coulter. Good boys, good boys. They burned my little puppy darling. Go to the infirmary, boys. Nurse Eloise will fix you up. Rudolph!
Yes, sir.
Get up there and do what you do best.
Yes, sir. You too. I will, don't worry, honey.
For hordes of the reindeer had took to the sky, hiding up in cloud cover as they sought their enemies. Oh, really? That is just such a stretch. If you can't rhyme a word... Oh, sorry.
No, that was good.
As they sought their enemies. With radar in their antlers and cameras infrared, back to screens at home base, everything witnessed was fed. Riding on the airborne war mammals' backs were aviator elves set to attack. Rudolph flew out the window into the head of the crowd of the flying hoof army that were waiting in the clouds.
You catching all this, Big Red?
Santa checked all the monitors from the base of command, then sent orders to Rudolph, high above land.
Ho, ho, ho. All right, begin confectionery bombardment now.
Down in the cold blackness, very suddenly, Sarah Palin gave a yelp for Santa's village she could see. But her yelp, it was enveloped by the sound of piercing cries as armor-plated reindeer dropped down from the darkened skies. The reindeer and their riders swooped groundward below the grim cloud line and began to throw spears of peppermints, shattering the villain's spines. Rock-hard fruitcake smashed in skulls as boiling fudge put out some lights. Another third of Blackwater's finest gone without a chance for them to fight. Mrs. Palin pulled a radio from inside a pocket sleeve, and while avoiding the attack from above, into it she screamed,
Blackhawk! Hunting season has begun! Now, move, go!
When also in the skyscape appeared a whirlybird, and as his gun began to fire, screams from reindeer and elves were heard. Bodies began to fall to the icy ground, elf corpses mixing with the soldiers, red and green guts splattered all around. And from the group more soldiers dead, plus Bob and Pete and Rex V2, for while Bob D had fatally shot a reindeer, when it fell they'd all forgot to move. "Company retreat!" exclaimed Rudolph, and waited until most were well alight. Then he turned and faced the copter. He got the pilot in his sight, for he knew he couldn't fight it. The copter would follow them back. He realized what he must do to thwart the airborne attack. Then with a snarl, he flew himself right at the copter's clear cockpit. And the last thing heard from the pilot was, "He's coming at us! Holy shit!" So as the flame and twisted metal fell upon the smaller group, the few left again looked around quite stunned, and were trying to recoup.
Let's go! We're nearly there!
Let's go! Let's go! Damn it, woman, you are out of control! All the old men are dead! Almost all the soldiers dead! Everyone's dead! We need to go back! We were wrong. We thought it'd be easy, I know. I thought it was a right jolly old elf, but this is a bug hunt, damn it! We're gonna die out here!
Well, you're almost right, Kenny.
Oh! Double agent?
Oh, I want you so bad right now.
Ted, I could never break the sacred vow of marriage. Now get to stepping!
One seems to hear words of the cheer from everywhere, filling the air. Oh, how they follow, raising the sound, higher again, time every time. Healing the rain, while people sing songs of the cheer. Christmas is here.
So Ted Wright and Sarah Palin and the final living soldiers, maybe 10, made it to just outside the gateway, all of a sudden when...
My hand will be
Krampus
right.
appeared, bent on sweet, sweet revenge.
None.
What the fuck is that thing? Holy shit! And while Ted was entangled with the monster mule-type lure, the soldiers all were rushed by the elves and were getting swarmed all over. And Santa himself was helping to bust chops, pounding on the crowd who this night had upsought. Again, another one. Just if you can't rhyme it, come up with it. All right, I'll read it. The men were dragged to icy ground. The group melee was bloody. And as Ted Wright's head was ripped clean off, Sarah screamed, "All right, hold it, Tubby!" For Palin had slipped inside the gate of Santa's castle abode, and with the gun came out again, with Mrs. Claus in tow.
Just be cooler, the old bitch gets it.
There wasn't a word said. Everyone froze. Not taking his eyes from her, Santa slowly rose. "Clear out!" Santa barked, waving away his team.
All right, Palin, come here.
"Just you and me. Why are you doing this? Oil? Money?"
Men. Stupid, money-hungry men. They were doing it for the oil and the money. They don't understand what's truly important. Blind vengeance. Vengeance, dear? How come I never got what I wanted, huh? All I ever wanted was a gun and a big drill.
Whoa, I'm sorry, Sarah, but Santa doesn't bring toys to bad little girls and boys. Now get your motherfucking claws off my wife, you naughty bitch!
Then with a karate chop, straight to Palin's arm, Santa knocked away the gun, clearing his wife from harm. Sarah was livid, and she said,
Now you die!
but as she raised her gun again to shoot him, he said, with a twinkle in his eye,
Ho, ho, you dopey moron. Do you really think a round of bullet is gonna stop me?
Yeah, you know, I thought it might.
Only if they're silver.
Huh?
Under her breath, Mrs. Claus chanted a spell which caused the sky to clear, and as the full moon's rays fell upon him,
See, I'm a rare reindeer!
Oh, holy
so he crushed in Sarah's cerebellum and finished off the soldiers too, stomping the bones and flesh to bits, leaving only an icy pinkish slew. And the elves danced in celebration, and the reindeer gave a cheer, and Mrs. Claus hugged Mr. saying,
Ooh, stay in that shape till after bed, you hear?
And Krampus, who had felt so great about being partners with Rudolph, was feeling lonely and bereft, and started to wander off. When suddenly in the distance, he heard a familiar voice. "Someone help! I'm still alive!" Which of course made him rejoice. So it was a happy ending up at the Old North Pole, with only real-life villains dying, and myths still staying heroes. So tell your children's children to tell the children one cold day, the story of the time Christmas became totally imperiled, but then turned out okay.
Thank you. Merry Christmas.
I'll call you back later, okay?
Okay, do that.
Okay, love you, bye.
Love you. All I see are your teeth.
Okay.